So there's a university named Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in New York, who they were working on research that goes back 20 years, which involves these cell cultures, these live cultures, right, that they had to keep in this freezer at a very specific temperature at negative 80 degrees Celsius, or negative 112 degrees Fahrenheit. And these cultures had to be kept at that very specific temperatures. A variation of 3 degrees in either direction could potentially be dangerous, for the cells. The cells essentially would be destroyed with a 3-degree fluctuation in either direction. Well, in 2020, the freezer malfunctioned, and the temperature of the freezer, I think, rose by 2 degrees, but it was still within the 3-degree range, which was acceptable for the cultures to be at, so it was fine. The freezer's alarm kept going off. It kept beeping because the temperature had risen 2 degrees, but it was okay. But the university did contact a company to try to come and repair the freezer. But because this was during 2020, so because of COVID-19, work on the freezer could not be completed for quite some time. And so that the university determined that the cultures would be safe in the freezer until the freezer could be serviced. They installed a safety lock on the freezer's outlet and socket. They put a note on the front of the freezer in all caps reading, "This freezer is beeping as it is under repair. Please do not move or unplug it. No cleaning required in this area. You could press the alarm/test mute button for 5 to 10 seconds if you'd like to mute the sound." It sounds like they were doing everything right. And these cultures are as safe as can be. You would think, but if they were actually safe, I wouldn't be talking about it. There was a janitor who worked at the institute who was annoyed by the beeping, and so he attempted to adjust the circuit breaker of the building, and in the process turned off breakers and shut off the power to the freezer. The freezer rose more than 3 degrees, and all the cultures could no longer be worked on. They were lost forever, flushing 20 years of research down the drain. It's not funny, but wow. Although, to be fair, the janitor claimed that he thought that he was actually turning the circuit breakers on, and he thought that they were mistakenly turned off, and that's why the beeping sound was going on. But he misread the circuit breaker, and he was actually turning them off when he thought he was turning them on. I don't know. He definitely was not supposed to be working with the circuit breaker. We know that for sure. So yeah, now the institute is suing the company that they contracted the janitors from for $1 million in damages. And they're suing his company, the janitor's company, because they believe that they didn't train the janitor well enough, and that the janitor also might be a person with special needs. So yeah, which I guess I'm glad. I mean, I don't want this poor person to be destroyed, even if it did something stupid. I mean, yeah, I've definitely made mistakes while I was working. That's definitely caused damages. Nothing that I'm going to admit to, though. I don't want it on the record. I've never messed with a circuit breaker that I haven't been trained to use, though, because that just seems like a bad idea. Also, most circuit breaker boxes are usually locked, right? I don't know. Our next story is an update to the Titan submersible, which we did last week. So if you missed that story, or if you forgot, I'll remind everybody quick. So there is a company called OceanGate, and it does these diving expeditions in these submersible vessels. And one of their expeditions goes to the site of the Titanic wreckage, right? A few weeks ago, a dive commenced, including 5 people on board, 4 passengers, and the pilot, who was also the CEO of the company. An hour and 45 minutes after the dive began, the support vessel lost contact with the Titan submersible. And when it became clear, when the Titan submersible was supposed to ascend, and they never came back into contact, it was clear that something had gone wrong. The support vessel contacted the Coast Guard, and everybody realized that the Titan submersible was lost. And there was 4 or 5 days where no one knew what had become of the Titan. Like, had the people gotten tangled in the debris of the Titanic? Had the submersible actually managed to surface? And were they just like floating around somewhere? Or did the Titan submersible just implode due to structural failure? Well, we know now. We found out like 5 days later that debris from the Titan was discovered on the ocean floor, and it was determined that the Titan likely just imploded, and all 5 people on board just died instantly. So that's the update. I mean, it's a little bit of a sad conclusion, but I mean, at least we do have an answer. And honestly, it's probably better than knowing that the people were just like stuck inside this vessel for like 5 days, and were not able to be rescued. They just had to like sit there because they had enough life support for like 96 hours or something. Like, it was like a really long time that they supposedly had oxygen for. So they could have just been sitting there, you know, with their thoughts, wondering if they were going to be rescued if it had not imploded and something else had gone wrong, right? Where they were still, you know, intact. But no, the whole thing just imploded, so they all died instantly. And recently, wreckage from the Titan was actually recovered. I think they're going to do an investigation about why exactly the Titan submersible imploded. But looking back, there are some very glaring concerns that could have been risen and were risen about the Titan submersible, and some of them are very concerning. We do know that in 2018, there was a person working for OceanGate named David Lockridge, who at the time was OceanGate's director of marine operations, and I think also he acted as the pilot of the vessel in some during some dives. But Lockridge raised some concerns about the vessel. He raised concerns about the Titan's viewport, so the window of the Titan submersible. The viewport was only certified for depths of up to 1,300 meters, but the Titan was regularly making trips up to 4,000 meters under the surface of the ocean. In addition, Lockridge also raised concerns about the decision to rely on acoustic monitoring to detect flaws in the ship's hull. So they would have like a computer that listened for cracking or popping sound while the hull was under pressure to detect flaws rather than like scanning the hull to look for cracks. And in response to Lockridge raising these concerns, Lockridge was actually fired from OceanGate. They were like, well, he's not actually an engineer. He's not hired to perform engineering services. And I think they just like fired him for raising safety concerns, which is not a good sign, honestly. Also, OceanGate received another warning in 2018 from the Marine Technology Society, which describes itself as a professional group of ocean engineers, technologists, policymakers, and educators. And they sent a letter to Rush saying that it was critical that the company had not submitted its prototype to any third party to verify that the vessel was safe. In fact, passengers of the Titan had to sign an acknowledgement that they knew that the Titan was not certified by any regulatory body, and that they could, die while on the Titan submersible. We also know that the choice of carbon fiber, the material used to build the hull of the ship, was criticized. Typically, submersibles and submarines that are subject to extreme pressures way down deep in the ocean, usually they're made from a metal like titanium. Carbon fiber is pretty atypical. My understanding is that it's harder to detect when there's cracks or flaws in carbon fiber. And also, I think that when carbon fiber fails, it's much more likely to shatter than metal. That's at least my understanding of why the carbon fiber was criticized. Also, the shape of the vessel was criticized. Normally, vessels like submersibles, you want it to be more spherical so that the pressure on the vessel is pretty evenly distributed along the entire vessel. The Titan submersible was more cylindrical shaped, so there was sort of an uneven pressure along the entire vessel. So we don't exactly know why the Titan submersible imploded. And I don't think we will know until the formal investigation has been, completed. But looking back, it does seem pretty alarming, just the disregard for safety that OceanGate had. Literally during an interview, the CEO of the company, Stockton Rush, said, and this is a quote, "At some point, safety is just pure waste. I mean, if you want to be safe, don't get out of bed, don't get in your car, don't do anything. At some point, you're going to take some risk, and it really is a risk-reward question. I think I can do this just as safely by breaking the rules." Well, there you go. The CEO of the company saying that at some point, safety is just pure waste. And then the vessel that the company owns just implodes because it was unsafe. It's literally like the hubris of the actual Titanic. They thought it was unsinkable. Although I don't know if they actually thought that about the Titanic, but they definitely thought about the Titan submersible. I think at one point the CEO, Stockton Rush, did describe Titan as invulnerable. So literally he called it unsinkable. Yeah, considering all of the criticism that Stockton Rush faced from the Marine Technology Society and from David Lockridge and from other experts in the industry, he really was under a lot of pressure to make his vessel more safe. But now he's under an entirely different sort of pressure. Sorry, that was really bad. Okay. Yeah, it's sad that this happened. I would prefer that the people actually not have died, in my opinion, even though they're rich. Each ticket cost $250,000. But still, I mean, I'm sad that they died, I guess. Yeah, there was a 19-year-old on board. There's a billionaire man and his son. And I guess his son was terrified to go on the Titan submersible, but he went because it was Father's Day. That adds another layer of sad to this whole situation. Well, it's sad. I was kind of hoping that they would be rescued because that would have been pretty epic, in my opinion. But they weren't. Let's move on to the next story. In other nautical news, there is a boat race currently underway called the Ocean Race, which is a yacht race where participants essentially have to circumnavigate the globe. Well, recently, a leg of the competition required yachters to go through the Strait of Gibraltar. And if you've been paying attention to the weird news recently, you might know that there is a pod of killer whales that has been sinking sailboats and yachts near the Strait of Gibraltar. It was a recipe waiting for disaster, and disaster struck everybody. There was another orca encounter involving one of the members of a yacht race. And there is video to prove it. So if you're not caught up to speed, essentially there's been like a pod of orcas near the Strait of Gibraltar that have been tearing rudders off of ships. And in some cases, sinking ships. But more often than not, they just like tear off the rudders. And the leading theory is that they're just doing it because they find it fun. They just find something about it stimulating, I guess. And it's sort of like a fad among the orcas. Like orcas have their own like sort of cultures within each pod. It's kind of amazing, actually. But yeah. But in the video, right? Luckily, the killer whales didn't actually tear off the rudder of this yacht that was in this yacht competition. They sort of just like rubbed up against it. I don't know. Sailors of the yacht, stopped sailing. They tried to make themselves as uninteresting as possible, which I guess is what you're supposed to do in these situations. I guess if you like wave your arms and try to like scare them off, I heard that some experts were saying that that's going to just make them more excited, which is really funny to me. Just like imagining like a sailor of a yacht just going, "No, stop," to like some orca attacking their ship. And the orcas are just like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." This is so stimulating. This particular yacht, Team Jajo, no one was injured. The sailboat was fine, or the yacht was fine, although they did like drop a few places in the competition, like they were like in the near the sort of the front of the competition before the orcas attacked, and I think they dropped a few like positions in terms of their how well they were doing in the race because of these orcas. That's just so unfortunate. But they were like aware of the hazard and everything. And they also have had to deal with a ton of other stuff, like seaweed, just like giant mats of seaweed, and other stuff like that. There also is the other theory that like the reason that the killer whales are doing this is because there was one individual named White Gladys that was injured by a sailboat or a yacht or some fishing equipment or something like that. And she decided to, it started attacking sailboats out of revenge, and then other killer whales like copied her. But recently I've been reading that theory is actually unlikely, just because killer whales don't typically take revenge on boats. Like in the 60s and the 70s when they were literally like capturing like live young to like bring to SeaWorld. Even then killer whales didn't like take up revenge against boats. And they had a very good reason to. Killer whales have very strong bonds between the mothers and and their offspring, right? And they're essentially like separating like baby orcas from their mothers. And even then, the orcas didn't receive revenge against boats. We're lucky, by the way. Yeah, but the orcas are mostly just having fun. They're mostly just playing, having a good time, sinking boats. To be fair, I'd imagine sinking a boat would be pretty fun to the orcas, to be fair to the orcas. Let's move on to our next story. Hamilton the hog ties up police officers for days, terrorizing Pennsylvania town, the fastest pig alive. So there was a man that awoke to a giant pig sleeping underneath his trampoline in his backyard. And I guess he called the police. The police showed up. They didn't know what to do. So they called the Lancaster Farm Sanctuary, who came with some equipment to try to trap the pig. And they hatched a very elaborate plan to try to lure the pig into the back of their van with food. But the pig just escaped from the mostly fenced-in yard. That's the big problem, is that the yard wasn't entirely fenced in. So it had escaped. The police officers were chasing the pig. They discovered that this pig is really freaking fast. You wouldn't think pigs would be very fast, but this pig was. He's nearly hit by a car. Dashed into another fenced-in area of a pediatric care facility. Luckily, I don't think there were any kids outside, but this pig got trapped in sort of the play area of a pediatric medical facility. Oh, so they're like sick children that are at this facility, and this pig just busts into their play area. It's so bad. No one was hurt. No one was hurt. I just want to make it very clear. And they were able to capture the pig in the yard of this pediatric care facility. And he's now living a happy life at a farm sanctuary. His name is now Gregory, and everybody's happy. I would assume. I wish that there was video. That's the only thing I wished about this. Oh, no, okay. But I can create a pretty clear picture in my mind of how this went down, I think. Let's move on to our final article. And longtime viewers of the channel know that I like to end weird news reports on a really fun article. And this week is no different. A Chinese crested scooter dubbed world's ugliest dog in California. There was a 7-year-old Chinese crested dog born with backwards hind legs that has been named the world's ugliest dog at an annual California contest. What? This poor dog has been through enough. It was born with backwards hind legs, and now you're going to call it ugly? It's not even that ugly in the picture, I don't think. Although the owner did have this nice quote about Scooter, and I quote, "Despite the challenges he has faced with his deformed hind legs, Scooter has defied all odds and shown us the true meaning of resilience and determination. He has become an inspiration to countless people around the world." Oh, it becomes nice. I am glad that Scooter keeps living despite all of his issues, his backwards hind legs, his ugliness. The list goes on. It's an inspiration that Scooter just keeps on going, you know? So that's all the weird news stories I have for today. I'll probably upload this on the 4th of July. Have a safe 4th of July, everybody. Don't be dangerous around fireworks. Don't put any part of your body over a firework. Don't throw fireworks at other people. Don't launch fireworks from the top of your head. I don't know. Those are all real things that have happened, by the way. Don't try to relight a defective firework. Just pour water on it and then get rid of it. Maybe just don't light off fireworks. They seem really dangerous. Or if you're from outside the United States, have a fun 4th of July anyways. I don't know. It's just a normal day for you, but I mean, have a good day. I'm rambling too much. Just end it. Just end it.